Wow. What is up, my DGGs? My side monitor thing comes today, so our stream layout's going to change for tomorrow. Oh boy. What's on the board today? Well, you see, it's about RTBA's rhetoric, and it's very odd. You wouldn't get that meme, though. I might switch the location of the board in that cute little table that I set up. Or I might set up a second camera. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. We'll see later. Which keyboard do you use? For like typing or for piano playing? It's short, some over-the-top emotional, but the numbers and sentiment are worth listening to, in my opinion. Well, I love numbers and sentiment. Together. Part 1, My Life is a Lie. How a Broken Benchmark Quietly Broke America. We're going to largely skip markets again because the sweater is rapidly unraveling. This is November 23rd, so yesterday. Do you have a system for note-taking? You should write out how you do research and what you look for. Don't I actually do research on stream? There are better ways to take notes. I need to get back to taking more notes again. I'm starting to now. I did it for my Lila debate. I'll do it for this Dinesh debate. That will start today. But we're going to largely skip markets again because the sweater is rapidly unraveling in other areas as I pull on threads. Suffice it to say, it is suffice, right? I feel like I look this word up all the time. Suffice it. Suffice it to say that the market is largely unfolding as I had expected. Credit stress is rising, particularly in the tech sector. Many are now pointing to the rising CDS for Oracle as the deterioration in AI balance sheets accelerates. What does CDS mean? CDS, business. What does CDS stand for? Oh, credit default swaps? Credit default swap. Let me just make sure I understand this real quick. Stop! It's a financial derivative that allows an investor to swap or offset their credit risk with that of another investor. A protection buyer buys a CDS from a protection seller who agrees to reimburse them if the borrower defaults. Most CDS contracts are maintained via an ongoing premium payment, similar to the regular premiums due to on an insurance policy. A lender who is worried about a borrower defaulting on a loan often uses a CDS to offset or swap that risk. Gotcha. Okay. Many are now pointing to the rising CDS for Oracle as the deterioration in AI balance sheets accelerates. CDS was also just introduced for Meta. It traded at 56, slightly worse than the aggregate IG CDS. I don't know what IG stands for. At 54.5, itself up from 46 as I began discussing this topic. These numbers are in dollars for what they're trading at, I'm guessing. Correlations are spiking as most stocks move in the same direction each day, even as mega cap tech continues to define the market aggregates. Market pricing of correlation is beginning to pick up. Remember, this is the real fear index, and the moving averages are trending upwards. Market pricing of correlation is beginning to pick up. I don't know what's being correlated with what, but okay. And as I predicted, inflation concerns, notably absent from any market-based indication, are again freezing the Fed. The pilots are frozen, understanding that they are in zugzwang. Every choice has unfavorable options. And so now, let's tug on that loose thread. I'm sure many of my left-leaning readers will say, this is obvious, we've been talking about it for years. Yes, many of you have, but you're using language of emotion, pay a living wage, rather than showing the math. My bad for not paying closer attention. Your bad for not showing your work or coming up with workable solutions. Let's rectify it rather than cast blame. How a broken benchmark quietly broke America. I've spent my career distrusting the obvious. Markets, liquidity, factor models, none of these ever felt self-evident to me. Markets are mechanisms of price clearing. Mechanisms have parameters. Parameters distort outcomes. This is the lens through which I learned to see everything, find the parameter, find the distortion, find the opportunity. But there was one number I had somehow never interrogated, one number that I simply accepted the way a child accepts gravity, the poverty line. Okay. I don't know why it seemed apolitical, an actuarial fact, calculated by serious people in government offices, a line someone else drew decades ago that we use to define who is poor, who is middle class, and who deserves help. It was infrastructure, invisible, unquestioned, foundational. This week, while trying to understand why the American middle class feels poorer each year despite healthy GDP growth and low unemployment, I came across a sentence buried in a research paper. The U.S. poverty line is calculated as 3 times the cost of a minimum food diet in 1963, adjusted for inflation. I read it again, 3 times the minimum food budget. I felt sick. Ugh, and then he threw up all over his desk. The measurement failure. The formula was developed by Molly Orshanksky, an economist at the Social Security Administration. In 1963, she observed that families spent roughly 1/3 of their income on groceries. Since pricing data was hard to come by for many items, for example, housing, if you could calculate a minimum adequate food budget at the grocery store, you could multiply by 3 and establish a poverty line. Orshansky was careful about what she was measuring. In her January 1965 article, she presented the poverty thresholds as a measure of income inadequacy, not income adequacy. If it is not possible to state unequivocally how much is enough, it should be possible to assert with confidence how much, on average, is too little. She was drawing a floor, a line below which families were clearly in crisis. For 1963, that floor made sense. Housing is relatively cheap. A family could rent a decent apartment or buy a home on a single income, as we've discussed. Healthcare was provided by employers and cost relatively little. Childcare didn't really exist as a market. Mothers stayed home, family helped, or neighbors who likely had someone home watched each other's kids. Cars were affordable if prone to breakdowns. With few luxury frills, the neighborhood kids in Votech could fix most problems when they did. College tuition could be covered with a summer job. Retirement meant a pension income, not a pile of 401k assets you had to fund yourself. Orshansky's food times 3 formula was crude, but as a crisis threshold, a measure of too little, it roughly corresponded to reality. A family spending 1/3 of its income on food would spend the other 2/3 on everything else, and those proportions more or less worked. Below that line, you were in genuine crisis. Above it, you had a fighting chance. But everything changed between 1963 and 2024. I mean, that's a long time. Okay. Housing costs exploded. Healthcare became the largest household expense for many families. Employer coverage shrank while deductibles grew. Childcare became a market, and that market became ruinously expensive. College went from affordable to crippling. Transportation costs rose as cities sprawled and public transit withered under government neglect. The labor model shifted. A second income became mandatory to maintain the standard of living that one income formerly provided. But a second income meant childcare became mandatory, which meant 2 cars became mandatory. Or maybe you'd simply be asking for a lot, generationally speaking, because living near your parents helped to defray those childhood costs. Wait. The composition of household spending transformed completely. In 2024, food at home is no longer 33% of household spending. For most families, it's 5 to 7%. Housing now consumes 35 to 45%. Healthcare takes 15 to 25%. Childcare for families with young children can eat 20 to 40%. If you keep Orshansky's logic, if you maintain her principle that poverty could be defined by the inverse of food's budget share, but update the food share to reflect today's reality, the multiplier is no longer 3, it becomes 16. Which means if you measured income inadequacy today, the way Orshansky measured it in 1963, the threshold for a family of 4 wouldn't be $31,200. It would be somewhere between $130,000 and $150,000. And remember, Orshansky was only trying to define too little. She was identifying crisis, not sufficiency. If the crisis threshold, the floor below which families cannot function, is honestly updated to current spending patterns, it lands at $140,000. What does that tell you about the $31,200 line we still use? It tells you we are measuring starvation. An imbalance between rich and poor is the oldest and most fatal ailments of all republics. From Plutarch, the god of Pluto. The real math of survival. Why is your kick being botted? Because I just wanted to bot a whole bunch of viewers today. Sometimes I get bored and I want to make things exciting. The real math of survival. The official poverty line for a family of four in 2024 is $31,200. The median household income is roughly $80,000. We have been told implicitly that a family earning $80,000 is doing fine, safely above poverty, solidly middle class, perhaps comfortable. But if Orshansky's crisis threshold were calculated today using her own methodology, that $80,000 family would be living in deep poverty. I wanted to see what would happen if I ignored the official stats and simply calculated the cost of existing. I built a basic needs budget for a family of four, 2 earners, 2 kids, no vacations, no Netflix, no luxury, just the participation tickets required to hold a hand and raise kids in 2024. Using conservative, national average data, childcare, $32,773. Damn. I know daycare is expensive. Is it really? What is the average cost of daycare US? How much childcare costs state by state in the USA 2025? What the fuck is this website? Childcare in the United States is a lifeline for families, a safe nurturing spot where kids can learn and grow while parents chase their careers. Cost taker for infants in the USA ranges from $400 to $1,500 a month. That's a huge range. A 2022 cost of care survey showed 72% of parents paying 10% of their income for center-based infant care, with 51% spending over 20%. I guess you would 2x it if you're not getting like a bundle discount or whatever. This feels a little high to me. $33,000 for 2 kids. But it's not like I have a basis right now of which to compare that. Also, one thing to note, not to take away from as expensive as it would be, this is only going to be up until the kid is maybe 4 or 5 years old, until they start doing school full time. I think kindergarten is usually a full day, or is it a half day? For kindergarten? I think kindergarten is usually full day. Preschool might just be half day. I feel like my kindergarten was full day. I wonder if I were to look for Miami daycare centers. Child learning centers. That sounds more expensive. Child learning centers. When was my kid born? 2023, we'll say. Cherry Blossom Learning Center and Preschool. Watch Me Grow Learning Center. Tangerine Learning Center. Magic Flute Montessori School. Holy shit. For the Young Academy Learning Center. For 1 to 5 years, $600 a month. Damn. If that was 2 kids, is $1,200. 12,000 and 2,400 is 14,400 a month. For 2 in Miami, what about this one? The Cherry Blossom. This is the #1 ranked school on this website. What do we got? That's 1,000 a month, which would be 2,000 for 2 kids, which would be 24,000. This number seems high. This number must be high. This says using conservative national average data. Conservative? Conservative means on the lower end for 2 kids, 33. I wonder if they're including like everything, like cost of diapers, cost of food, cost of hospital visits, or cost of everything else. Maybe? I don't know. But, okay, we'll say, I'm sure it's, I don't know. Housing is 23,267, which would mean your house payment is, what is this, about 1,700 a month? For everything. Food is 14,700. Man, if you're using 33,000 for childcare, you're using 15,000 for food a year for a family of 4. It's not impossible, but okay. Wait, okay. Transportation is 14,828. Why is 14K high for a family of 4? I didn't say it was high. I'm just saying if you're saying childcare, if we're saying conservatively, it's 33,000 a year. This food number seems a lot more realistic than the childcare number. But transportation is 15,000 a year. I'm assuming this includes like car payments and gas and everything. And then healthcare, 10,567 a year. These numbers could be crazy. I've seen this go from 0 to way too much, just depends. Other essentials, 22,000. I don't know what this means. And then required net income is $118,009. It's insane. What the fuck are the food prices there? Are they only buying lunch packages? I think the average household throws away up to like 50% of their food. It's pretty crazy how difficult it is for people to do grocery stuff, which made me feel better when I read that, but okay. Add federal, state, and FICA taxes. 15K for transportation is easy to reach given there's a lot of 1K per month car payments out there. Okay. I feel like the most frustrating part about talking finance is me trying my best to be relatively objective and then a whole bunch of insanely fucking rich people, rich kids in my chat constantly screaming, you're out of touch, you're out of touch, you're out of touch, because they have absolutely no idea what anything in the real world costs. That's my favorite thing in the universe, okay? But yes, that is true. The average car payment is $1,000 a month. King. Where was that? Sorry. That's saying $300 per week on transportation. Assume $100 a week for gas. That's an $800 car payment unless they're spending way more on gas. I wasn't even saying this number is unrealistic. I was just commenting on some people in chat. The for this number here. Oh, now we'll find out who's out of touch. Why do you think this number looks so high, motherfuckers? Where are you? Where are my in-touch people who really know the working man struggle? Tell me, motherfuckers. Oh, one guy guessed it. That's the correct prop. That's most likely the correct guess. The most likely correct guess is they have 2 cars because they have 2 working parents. Okay? You privileged ass motherfucking piece of shit. Mom and dad both have to work. Oh, but you know what? I'm out of touch, actually, because you motherfuckers don't even go to work anymore. Y'all fucking work at home, so who the fuck even knows? Mom and dad probably both hybrid work or just work indoors all day, and they don't even leave the fuck... I don't know. But yeah, generally speaking, especially when you have 2 kids, at least in middle-ish class families, you're going to have 2 cars because, like, picking up the kids from school, driving them off, picking them up, taking them to daycare, doing whatever else, and somebody having to get to and from work all the time is just, yeah. Destiny, do you see the obvious problem with this argument, or should I tell you the truth nuke that blows the whole shit out of the water? Well, let me finish it first. Damn. Okay. My mom is an OnlyFans model, obviously. True. At federal, state, and FICA taxes of roughly $18,500, and you arrive at a required gross income of $136,500. This is Orshansky's too little threshold updated honestly. This is the floor. The single largest line item isn't housing, it's childcare, $32,773. This is the trap. To reach the median household income of $80,000, most families require 2 earners, but the moment you add the second earner to chase that income, you trigger the childcare expense. If one parent stays home, the income drops to $40,000 to $50,000, well below what's needed to survive. If both parents work to hit $100K, they hand over $32,000 to a daycare center. Only for 4 or 5 years, though, right? That's not permanent. But the second earner isn't working for a vacation or a boat. The second earner is working to pay the stranger watching their children so they can go to work and clear $1 to $2K extra a month. It's a closed loop. Well, but that's also... This number is definitely high. And it's assuming you have no family or anybody in the area to help as well, but... Okay. The housing lie, or why the model is optimistic. Not 6 to 7 years. I don't know. When does a child start daycare? When does kindergarten. My child is 5. They start 5 or 6. So yeah, if kindergarten and then first grade, 5 or 6 is... Is childcare the same as daycare? My guess is it's just a newly updated word so people can charge more money for their bullshit. It's like certified pre-owned instead of a used car. But I don't know. Wait, hold on. Somebody linked childcare costs explained. What do they say? The average annual cost of infant care in Alabama is $7,871. Childcare for a 4-year-old costs $7,268 or $606 each month. Oh, sure, these numbers are believable. This is super believable. I wonder if you're looking... Is Connecticut on average, the entirety of the state? Jesus Christ. Oh, DC is the most expensive. Damn, are they putting these motherfuckers in brain vats? What the fuck? DC probably has a very high median salary. Maybe, yeah. Measuring all this would be really difficult because, childcare is unaffordable for typical families in Washington, D.C., But I don't know how many people that work in DC. I don't know how many of them live in DC. So that might be hard to measure because a ton of people commute from the surrounding states to go into DC to work, right? So there might be people that are, I don't know, usually you drop your kid off at daycare either near work or near home. I don't know what would be cheaper or what they'd be more likely to do, but. Oh, true. For DC, these childcare centers probably are fucking armed to the teeth because you need guards and shit to protect from Democratic Party operatives that come in for taking kids for like their child sacrifices and shit. So you're literally fighting off, whatever Hillary Clinton troops are being sent to your daycare center. Fuck that shit. Okay. The model above allocates, critics will immediately argue that I'm cherry picking expensive cities. They will say $136,500 is the number for San Francisco or Manhattan, not real America. So let's look at real America. The model above allocates $23,267 per year for housing. That breaks down to $1,938 per month. This is the number that serious economists use to tell you that you're doing fine. And my last piece, are you an American? I analyzed a modest starter home, which turned out to be in Caldwell, New Jersey, the kind of place a teamster could afford in 1955. I went to Zillow to see what it cost to live in that same town if you don't have a down payment and are forced to rent. There are exactly 7 2-bedroom plus units available in the entire town. The cheapest one rents for $2,715 per month. Wait, but that sounds pretty... Nobody likes my city. In Omaha, could we find... Let's check first. Okay, average rent, Omaha, Nebraska. Let's get a quick average on what is apartments.com. For a 2-bedroom, the average is $1,400 a month. My guess is if I went on Zillow and I started looking for a house to rent or an apartment to rent, I'm sure I could find stuff below average. Let's shop between 1,000 and 2,000. $1,700. Benson. Like I can find houses here. This is where I'm from, but I guess it would depend on. In New Jersey, this city that he's talking about, Caldwell. How close is that to New York City? Caldwell, New Jersey. Would anybody working in New York realistically live here? Or Caldwell, New Jersey to Times Square directions. Oh, well. Is this assuming no traffic? There's like no traffic right now. You could probably, I guess you could make this if you worked in the city. It'd be about an hour drive. I don't know if people usually drive into New York City to work in like Brooklyn or Queens or whatever, if they would live, like when people live in like New Jersey or whatever to go to work in New York City, are they always working in Manhattan or do they ever work in the other boroughs? Public transport would be an hour and a half based. Does this mean nothing came up? Oh, these are homes for sale. For rent. This area seems pretty pricey. Here's one for $1,800 a month. 1 bed, 1 bathroom. Ooh, I bet there's going to be a rinky-dink place too. Jesus fuck. Oh man, this is where you have to put the cats and dogs out to get the Haitians to fuck off. Oh no. Is this a repurposed? Oh no, that's probably the entrance to the building. Sorry. Bro. Bro, no. Unfinished basement, nice. Oh, no, this isn't your basement. I'm sorry. It's shared laundry and drying, right? This is multiple units for. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck all this shit. Fuck living here. Why did he have to do Caldwell, New Jersey? Just because that's what they used, or that's what he talked about in this piece? Because, like, my guess is going to be the prices for all of the areas that, like, connect you to New York City probably went up a lot more than other areas that would be outside. Like, 'cause it's just a guess, right? But what I've always heard is, like, you live in New Jersey, like, people that live in Newark and shit, like, a lot of these people commute into New York to work. So, like, a lot of these, I'm sure that this extended to a lot of these outer suburbs as well, that a lot of people just move here so that they can drive into New York or commute to New York to work. My rental is $22.50 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a decent sized lot in Reno. Oh, yeah, Reno is kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, but yeah. Someone said, nah, if you live in Newark, you probably work in Newark. The suburbs north of Newark and the towns west of New York City are where the New York City commuters live. Okay. Caldwell is a borough located in northwestern Essex County in the U.S. state of New Jersey, about 60 miles west of New York City and 6 miles northwest of Newark, the state's most populous city. As of the 2020 U.S. Census, the borough's population was 9,027, an increase 15.4% from the 2010 census. Though today, the Caldwell area is considered to be a suburb of both Newark and New York City, the area originally developed as its own individual self-contained community and economy rather than as urban sprawl from a larger city. When it was formed, miles of woods separated downtown Caldwell from Newark or any of its developing suburbs. New Jersey Monthly magazine ranked Caldwell as its third best place to live in its 2010 rankings of the best places to live in New Jersey. Okay, well. There are exactly 7 2-bedroom plus units available in the entire town. The cheapest one rents for $27.15 per month. That's a $777 monthly gap between the model and reality. That's $9,300 a year in post-tax money. To cover that gap, you need to earn an additional $12,000 to $13,000 in gross salary. So when I say the real poverty line is $140,000, I'm being conservative. I'm using optimistic national average housing assumptions. If we plug in the actual cost of living in the zip codes where the jobs are, where rent is $2,700, not $1,900, the threshold pushes past $160,000. One of the issues that I have when people talk about, like, cost of living is sometimes I don't know if people think, like, it's very, very, very regional. Depending on how anal you want to get, I can speak with the best level of specificity probably to Omaha. But I'm sure I know this is true of every city. I don't have to even think about that. How do I get rid of this? If you look at the city of, like, Omaha, Nebraska, even for people that live in Omaha, you would never generalize rent, or you'd never generalize cost of living in Omaha, because these areas are all like pretty different, from at least from what I remember. I don't know if things have like changed, but like North O, this is where quote unquote the black people lived or whatever. But like North Omaha, especially when you got up here near Ames, I think my uncle lived. Oof, where did he live? He lived in some fucking ghetto, shady ass bullshit. I think like up in here somewhere. Not super ghetto-y, I shouldn't say that, but like kind of meh. This is where my first wife went to school. Wait, where were we? 72nd and Fort was where Marion High School was, right? Hold on, wait. 72nd is this? Islamic Center of Omaha? Wait, what the fuck? Wait. Am I crazy? Wait. I would drive her to school. We'd go north on 72nd. This is 72nd, right? No, wait. Maybe we're not west enough. Hold on. Yes, wait. No, this is 72nd. And then take a left on Fort. Driving. Past Maple. There's a Dairy Queen here that I go to all the time. Somewhere. It's there. Wait, hold on. Why do I feel like I'm losing my brain? Wait, here, there it is. Dairy Queen, south of Blondo. Okay, wait. Drive north. We take a left on, or no, it might be Military because this turns into Fort or some bullshit at some point. And then I would get a hot chocolate from here every morning at the Quick Trip because you could get a huge like 50-ounce fucking hot chocolate because you'd fill it at the machine. And then at some point, oh, it's right here. You take a right. And this is the high school. Servants of Mary. Wow. Is it still a high school? Upperclassmen parking, underclassmen parking. Is this the name of, did they change it? I thought it was just Marion High School. Do they call it Servants of Mary? What the fuck is this now? What the fuck? Maybe that's the official name? Oh, Marion High School, whatever. Okay, where was I? Sorry. Anyway. I feel like if you live north of Ames and east of 72nd up there, you're in like some weird shit. This is like weirdish area. But if you were to go, so that's over there. But if you live like near West Roads, like west of like 90th, these are like better areas. Regency here, this is where Warren Buffett lives. Or did live. I'm pretty sure he still has a house here. These are some of your wealthiest homes in Omaha, right here. The West Side District, I think, is like upper middle class. Is like pretty good. Ralston is like lower middle class-ish, I think, to upper working class-ish. Like even within this city, there's like, I feel like you can get significant differences of just like going like 30, 40 blocks away. I don't know why I'm pointing all this out. If you haven't been here, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying it's weird when somebody says, like, even for the whole city, when people like guesstimate rents and stuff, if you move to different neighborhoods in the same city, you can get like significantly different rents and significantly different cost of living for a bunch of associated stuff. But that's okay. All that to say, whatever. Suck my dick. Where were we? To get an idea on how realistic these models are, maybe you can do an example budget for Omaha or Miami with sources. Oh, maybe calculate your own. Oh, maybe we'll do that after. I don't know. So when I say the real poverty line is 140K, I'm being conservative. I'm using optimistic national average housing. Okay, the market isn't just expensive, it's broken. 7 units available in a town of thousands. That isn't a market. That's a shortage masquerading as an auction. There definitely is like housing shortages, like we need more. But you're looking at a market that seems heavily restrictive. Why not go to a different market? I know that's like impossible, sorry. And that $2,715 rent check buys you zero equity. In the 1950s, the monthly housing cost was a forced savings account that built generational wealth. Today, it's a subscription fee for a roof. You are paying a premium to stand still. Okay. The hedonic lie why a phone costs $200 and not $58. Economists will look at my $140,000 figure and scream about hedonic adjustments. Heck, I will scream at you about them. They are valid attempts to measure the improvement in quality that we honestly value. I will tell you that comparing 1955 to 2024 is unfair because cars today have airbags, homes have air conditioning, and phones are supercomputers. I will argue that because the quality of the good improved, the real price dropped. And I would be making a category error. We are not calculating the price of luxury. We are calculating the price of participation. Oh, this is what I was going to say when I wrote this. There's something to be said for, because I had this thought, but I don't know how you would figure it out. The level one, this is the assertion that I give. The level one assertion is that, the standard of living is improved even if you're buying the same thing, right? A TV today is better than a TV yesterday. And then, but the takeaway from that is okay, so what you're saying is that if people just bought the TV from yesterday with today's wages, they would actually be doing way better off. And then the response to that is, yes, of course they would be, because now they'd have more money and they could just buy a ton of shit, just older stuff. But then I think the counter or whatever to that is, while that might be true, if $100 plasma TV, they were like $500, a $500 plasma TV from the year 2000 that you could buy today for 2025 for $100 or $50, a fucking plasma screen, is going to feel worse than that same TV in 2020 or in the year 2000 because of what the standards are around you. So if I were to get a $500 TV from the year 2000, let's say it was more expensive, I couldn't afford it, but I could buy that same TV, 20 years later for $100 or $50. I could get it and I'm saving a ton of money, but it doesn't even really feel worth the $50 now, let alone, whatever. It doesn't feel worth it because nobody's using that thing anymore. So you just feel like a fucking loser. But then I don't know what the solution is to that other than to tell everybody, all you motherfuckers need to stop buying new shit, or you just ban new shit from being in the market, Also, old stuff doesn't actually get cheaper. It's just not produced anymore. So you're going to secondhand. Kind of. I mean, old stuff is definitely cheaper and could definitely be manufactured for cheaper. But the problem is the demand doesn't exist for it because people always want the newest stuff, We're not calculating the price of luxury, we're calculating the price of participation. To function in 1955 society, to have a job, call a doctor, and be a citizen, you needed a telephone line. That participation ticket costs $5 a month. I forget if you were the one that said this, but the idea resonated with me. Essentially, that it used to be the case that life was cheap and luxury items were expensive, and now it seems like the other way around. Like, you can go to Costco and get a 70-inch TV for $350, but rent feels expensive. Sure. Adjusted for standard inflation, that $5 today that $5 should be $58 today, but you cannot run a household in 2024 on a $58 landline. To function today, to factor authenticate your bank account, to answer work emails, to check your child's school portal, which is now digital only, you need a smartphone plan and home broadband. I mean, not to be a dick, but because I'm not saying people don't deserve cell phones, but you don't need I don't think you need a smartphone plan to do this. Can you download Authy on your computer? I'm sure that there are authentication programs that you can get that aren't just on your cell phone, right? There must be two-factor authentication programs that you can get on your desktop. I'm sure there are. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Even if there aren't, you could just get, even if there aren't, you can just have a phone and use your Wi-Fi, right? But wait, what? Hold on. Okay. Okay, where were we? The cost of that participation ticket for a family of four is not $58, it's $200 a month. The economists say, but look at the computing power you get. I say, look at the computing power I need. The utility I'm buying is connection to the economy. The price of that utility didn't keep pace with inflation. It tripled relative to it. I ran this participation audit across the entire 1955 budget. I didn't ask, is the car better? I asked, what does it cost to get to work? Healthcare in 1955, Blue Cross family coverage was roughly $10 a month, $115 in today's dollars. Today, the average family premium is over $1,600 a month. That's 14x inflation. Taxes in 1955, the Social Security tax was 2.0% on the first $4,200 of income. The maximum annual contribution was $84. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $960 a year. Today, a family earning the median $80,000 pays over $6,100. That's 6x the inflation. Social Security tax was 2% on the first $4,200 of income. The maximum annual contribution was $84. It's kind of weird because I mean, Social Security you technically get back in retirement too, right? But okay. 1955, this cost was zero because the economy supported a single earner model. Today it's $32,000. That's an infinite increase in the cost of participation. The only thing that actually tracked official CPI was food. Everything else, the inescapable fees required to hold a job, stay healthy, and raise children inflated at multiples of the official rate when considered on a participation basis. Yes, these goods and services are better. I would not trade my 65-inch 4K TV mounted flat on the wall for a 25-inch CRT dominating my living room, but I don't have a choice either. The Valley of Death, why $100,000 is the new poor. Once I establish that $136,500 is the real break-even point, I ran the numbers on what happens to a family climbing the ladder toward that number. What I found explains the vibes of the economy better than any CPI print. Our entire safety net is designed to catch people at the very bottom, but it sets a trap for anyone trying to climb out. As income rises from $40,000 to $100,000, benefits disappear faster than wages increase. I call this the Valley of Death. Let's look at the transition for a family in New Jersey. The view from $35,000, the official poor. At this income, the family is struggling, but the state provides a floor. They qualify for Medicaid, free healthcare. They receive SNAP, food stamps. They receive heavy childcare subsidies. Their deficits are real but capped. The cliff at $45,000. Family earns a $10,000 raise. Good news. No, at this level, the parents lose Medicaid eligibility. Suddenly, they must pay premiums and deductibles. Income gain, $10,000. Expense increase, $10,567. Net result, they are poorer than before. The effective tax on this mobility is over 100%. Does Medicaid, there's definitely like an issue with this that I agree. Does Medicaid, does this like kick in at different levels? Is it scaling or is it like a hard cliff? Medicaid qualification. Department determines eligibility for low-income children and family programs in the institutional care program. Department of Children. Each program has its own income and asset requirements. Incest. Jesus Christ. I don't know if I can explain this well, but even if so I just asked if there's a hard cliff versus like a scaling thing, because a hard cliff sucks. Hard cliffs suck because you know how we make fun of people who are like, oh, like I made $9,990 last year, and then this year I made $10,000, and now I'm in a higher tax bracket, so all my income gets taxed more. And it's like, no, retard, that's not how it works. When you have hard cliff cutoffs for certain types of aid, that is how it works. Like, oh, I earned a little bit over the cap, and now I'm on the hook for some huge expense. I would have been better off earning less money. Even if you do scale things, though, there's... How can I explain this? I don't know if I can do this. Even if you scale things, there's an effect where, like, the next dollar you earn there's, what would you call this? Like an effective tax increase or something because of how your money is working. I'm not going to be able to explain this. It's bad. That's all I'll say. I don't know how to explain it. If this was your income, if this was so like we never want to see, ideally, generally, you don't really want to see benefits that look like this, where like, oh, this is the benefit you get. And then it's like, oh, and then it falls off at this income level. Like ideally, there'd be some minimum threshold, and then it would start to like scale off kind of. But there's a weird phenomenon where if we measure our taxes, like this or whatever, where at different income brackets, it scales up. There's this like particularly harsh field where you're earning this much money, you earn, you pay some very, very low in taxes, and it's even lower because you get tax credit stuff, and you have all this welfare that kind of helps. And then you get into this level, and then you start earning more, but every new dollar you earn here is like 100%. You earn every dollar. It's like, oh, we get lots of dollars. $1 earned is another dollar earned. That's some good ass shit because you've got all these kind of like benefits kicking in. But once you get here, well, now as your benefits start to slide off, well, my next dollar earned here is only like 95% as good as the dollar over here. And the next dollar earned here might only be like 90% as good as the dollar here. And then once you start to get to these areas, like, oof, my dollars that I'm earning now are like 40% as good or 20% as good because because as these start to scale off, you're kind of like losing this kind of multiplier effect. And then by the time you get way down here, now he's presenting this Medicaid thing as a cliff. And it might be actually, I don't know as much about Medicaid. It might be the case that a dollar earned here is actually worth like less than 0%. It's almost like a negative dollar versus like the dollars that you were earning here compared to these. Now, compared to like each last dollar, it's still technically better than not earning it. But you get into these weird areas, even when you even when you kind of like try to scale these things off to prevent these harsh cliffs, every next dollar earned here is still worth quite a bit less because of, I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if I explained that well, but... Could we make a semi-cliff cutoff for Medicaid where after 40K or something, Medicaid is no longer free but requires you to pay in some amount? The amount would be smaller than private insurance, but instead is calculated as a percentage of your previous year's AGI. So I don't know what all Medicaid qualifies you for, but in my opinion, these types of phenomena these types of phenomena are the best reason to have different types of like UBI. So like, let's say that we decide that if you earn less than $40,000 a year, then you're entitled to like Medicaid benefits that average out to, we'll say $10,000 a year in Medicaid benefits, or $5,000, probably less than that, because most people aren't going to draw that much, right? In that case, rather than fuck all this shit, rather than all of the administrative burden, there's an administrative burden, and there's also a human cost burden in that like the poor people that are working now have to navigate all this. Other industries will pop up to help them navigate it, which are extractive because they're not really, the benefit that they're providing is just helping you navigate the government benefits that you're already entitled to as a US citizen, which kind of sucks in my opinion. I don't think that feels good. And it's just like, and so you're gonna have people who need these benefits and who are entitled to them, but then they don't even get them because they don't know how to navigate it, or they don't pay the right person to help them out. It's just bullshit. I think this should all just be UBI. Like, give them a flat $5,000 a month check for everybody in society, and then fuck it. And then just fuck it. So we don't have Medicaid anymore, but everybody just gets this bare minimum thing or whatever that's for healthcare costs, and then that's it. I feel like that this is like a strong argument in an area here. It reminds me a lot of that Matt Bridges conversation you guys had. Yeah, that's actually what I'm drawing from. He convinced me of that, I think, a lot, where rather than do all this bullshit, just give the $5,000 to everybody and just say fuck it, and then just move on to the next thing. And you eliminate all of this bullshit. Not to be mean or fucking race realist or whatever the fuck else, but like keep in mind too that when you're talking about Medicaid, you're talking about your poorest people in society. You're probably talking about your least educated, lowest IQ, whatever people in society, right? You want them to navigate all this shit? Like, oh, hey, Mr. and Mrs., below the poverty line people who both of you failed high school and all this. Can you go ahead and check out this like 78-page thing to verify? Like, fuck, this is fucked. There's no fucking way. Fuck all this shit. It's too much. This is too much, I think. How can UBI replace Medicaid? $5,000 a month will not cover getting cancer or something. I'm sure there's like you could just like have an account for basic healthcare stuff or whatever. Most people aren't getting cancer. That's an exceptionally rare thing. that's a like we can have some administrative thing for that or whatever. What do you do when they waste all their money on drugs and now are fucked health wise and now are stuck in the hospital with access to no money to pay for healthcare? I mean, what do you do now on Medicaid if they waste their money on drugs and they go? It's the same shit now. It's just with more administrative burden. What do you mean? Isn't there something to be said for the lack of lateral maneuverability with Medicaid? It might be a feature instead of a bug. If you give them UBI, I think it's... I'm sorry. I thought I said this. Maybe I didn't say this clear enough. You could have like a healthcare account. Like, you know, you have like health savings accounts or whatever. You just get like a $5,000 a month, not a month. You get like a whatever annual. You just get like an HSA that the government deposits money into and you can use it on healthcare related things, you know? Would this not essentially be the same thing? The best. Oh, the negative income tax? Maybe. Thank you, Mary Naden 95.
The best, or should I say the least bad solution I have ever...
Is he really this one-dimensional? Or, I'm sorry, I'm just making a huge assumption. Like, talking to a libertarian. We need to do welfare. No, we should never do welfare. We can't do welfare. You're not entitled to anybody else's money. True. You know how you hate taxes? Yes, I hate taxes because I'm a libertarian. How about if instead of welfare, what if we did like a negative income tax? That sounds awesome because I hate taxes and it's a negative tax. Just for poor people? Sure.
There's something called...
Sorry, maybe... So the negative income tax was one solution, but I think it still runs into that graph problem that I pointed out, that as you earn more money, the next dollar earned is like kind of worth less than the prior dollar earned. So I think just doing the flat disbursement to people might work out better. What is this guy saying? Good luck on your journey and better understanding. You are 20 plus years behind. Glad to see you finally understood there is more than just politics. Ban me. I'm logging out. Stay mad. Okay. And he linked OECD public indicators of a country's strategic framework on anti-corruption. Okay. Good job. Okay, the cliff at $45,000, healthcare trap. The family earns a $10,000 raise. Good news. No, at this level, the parents lose Medicaid eligibility. Cliff at $65,000, childcare trap. This is the breaker. The family works harder. They get promoted to $65,000. They are now solidly working class, but at roughly this level, childcare subsidies vanish. They must now pay the full market rate for daycare. Income gain plus $20,000. Wait, Destiny, with the cliff issue, how is it different from going into a new tax bracket for people making more money? Why is it an issue at the lower income end, but not at the higher income end of the scale? Because as you get into new tax brackets, the increase in like percentage tax you're paying on the next dollar goes up like a few percentage points. But when you're talking about subsidies falling off, that percentage of the next dollar earned is much more severely affected. I don't know if that makes sense. So like if I'm losing $10,000 of benefit going from $40,000 to $50,000 in income, if I can imagine I lose a $10,000 subsidy there, you've basically taxed every new dollar from that 40 to 50K income. You've basically taxed all those dollars at 100%, which is an infinite increase over whatever it's a greater increase on whatever you were taxing them before. Whereas for tax brackets, when you move into the next tax bracket, you're just taxing the next dollar at what, 5 points higher or 2 points, I don't know, depending on what bracket you're moving through, than you would have been in the last bracket, right? I imagine the impact of those dollars on the person in question is radically different depending on where they are on the scale. Maybe, sure, but I don't know what that, actually, I don't know what that response was. I don't know how that was responsive to what I said. But at roughly this level, childcare subsidy, when you run the net income numbers, a family earning $100,000 is effectively in a worse monthly financial position than a family earning $40,000. I feel like this is one of those areas where you have to do like I think this is one of those areas where you have to step back and do like a sanity check on your numbers. Like, do we really feel this? Is this actually what's happening? Given the ability to earn $100,000 a year for a family of four, would you really choose to earn $40,000 a year as a family of four in the same market, in the same house, in the same everything? I don't know if this doesn't feel like it passes a basic sanity check to me. At $40,000, you are drowning, but the state gives you a life vest. At $100,000, you are drowning, but the state says you are a high earner and ties an anchor to your ankle called market price. In option terms, the government has sold a call option to the poor, but they've rigged the gamma. As you move closer to the money, self-sufficiency, the delta collapses. For every dollar of effort you put in, the system confiscates 70 to 100 cents. No rational trader would take that trade, yet we wonder why labor force participation lags. It's not a mystery, it's math. Also, nobody's doing this math. There's nobody in the economy is thinking, I'm earning $40,000 a year right now. I'm going to take a new job that earns $100,000 a year. But if I take that job, then I'm going to calculate A, B, C, D, E, F, G benefits and differential tax treatment. Like, just, yeah. Yeah, but generally speaking, your next dollar is worth less than your last is not an issue and is actually how progressive tax systems work, right? You're simply saying that your next dollar shouldn't take your last dollar away. Well, I'm saying that, like, if your next dollar is worth less than the last in huge jumps, that might be a bad thing. Like, if we had a tax bracket that went from like 30% and then the next bracket was like 90%, we'd probably say like, oh, this kind of a jump doesn't feel very good. It actually seems like I'm highly disincentivized to work past, whatever the next bracket is, The physics of ruin, the phase change. The most dangerous lie of modern economics is mean reversion. Economists assume that if a family falls into debt or bankruptcy, they can simply save their way back to the average. Is there any economist that thinks that? Or financial planner that thinks that? I feel like debt and bankruptcy end up always becoming vicious cycles. I think it takes quite a bit to get your way. I feel like every single financial planner, investor, or like all like the YouTube channels or the people that give advice on how to escape debt always like treat it as like a pretty big cycle that it's difficult to escape from. But okay. They are confusing volatility with ruin. Falling below the line isn't like cooling water. It's like freezing in it. It is a phase change. When a family hits the barrier, eviction, bankruptcy, or default, they don't just have less money, they become economically inert. They are barred from the credit system for 7 to 10 years. They are barred from the prime rental market, landlord screens. They are barred from employment in sensitive sectors. With bankruptcy, how clean it is today, I think it's pretty normal on average to come back. I don't know about that. I feel like the biggest issue with bankruptcy is probably not the bankruptcy itself. It's that if you're in a situation where you're having to declare bankruptcy, like you might already be a person who's going to have a hard time making it back, You can Google QMB versus SLMB Medicaid to see if it's a cliff in your view. This is for Medicare. Are these all look like Medicaid, Medicare, and dual eligibility? I don't care. Fuck this. In physics, it takes massive latent heat to turn ice back into water. In economics, the energy required to reverse a bankruptcy is exponentially higher than the energy required to pay a bill. A $140,000 line matters because it is the buffer against the phase change. If you're earning $80,000 with $79,000 in fixed costs, you're not stable. You're super cold water. One shock, a transmission failure, a broken arm, and you freeze instantly. The lockdown arbitrage. Proof of concept. If you need proof that the cost of participating and the cost of working is the primary driver of this fragility, look at the COVID lockdowns. In April 2020, the U.S. personal savings rate hit a historic 33%. Economists attributed this to stimulus checks, but the math tells a different story. What? I didn't see that at all. Attributed the savings rate to stimulus checks? Everything that I read said that the savings rate was attributed to the fact that the household outlays dramatically decreased. People were spending way less money on entertainment and going out because a lot of places were just closed or just people didn't leave the house. Everything I read said that, but maybe there were other things that I just didn't read or didn't see, I guess. I've never seen this. Economists said that the savings rate was so high because we got one stimulus check. I've never seen this. I don't know. My gut tells me to not believe that, but okay. During lockdown, the valley of death was temporarily filled. Childcare was suspended because kids were home. True. Commuting suspended. Work lunches / clothes suspended. Yeah, your outlays, your household outlays, all of these things went away. For a median family, the cost of participation in the economy is roughly $50,000 a year. When the economy stopped, then that tax was repealed. Families earning $80,000 suddenly felt rich, not because they earned more, but because the leak in the bucket was plugged. For many, income actually rose thanks to the $600 a week unemployment boost. Well, yeah, but also because a lot of people were getting more, I think, in unemployment than they even earned in their ordinary jobs. The unemployment and the stimulus and everything was pretty massive. And they didn't even have to work, right? So you're like, income actually rose thanks to the $600 a week in unemployment. Yeah, but also because it's not just that you're getting unemployment, it's that you're getting paid and you're not working, right? But even for those whose income stayed flat, they felt rich because many costs were avoided. Yeah, and they didn't have to work. They just had free time. They were just given money and not working. It's unemployment. When the world reopened, the costs returned, but now inflated by 20%. The rage we feel today is the hangover from that brief moment where the American option was momentarily back in the money. Those with formal training in economics have dismissed these concerns by and large. Inflation is the rate of change in the price level. These poor, deluded souls were outraged at that price level. Tut, can't have deflation. How can we? We promise you'll like that even less. But the price level does mean something too. If you're below the actual poverty line, you are suffering constant deprivation, and a higher price level means you can get even less in aggregate. This mathematical valley explains the rage we see in the American electorate, specifically the animosity the working poor, the middle class, feel towards the actual poor and immigrants. Economists and politicians look at this anger and call it racism or lack of empathy. They are missing the mechanism. Altruism is a function of surplus. It's easy to be charitable when you have excess capacity. It's impossible to be charitable when you're fighting for the last bruised banana. The family earning $65,000, the family that just lost their subsidies and is paying $32,000 for daycare and $12,000 for healthcare deductibles, is hyper aware of the family earning $30,000 and getting subsidized food, rent, childcare, and healthcare. I don't believe this. This doesn't, in my mind, doesn't pass a basic smell test, but they say the neighbor at the grocery store, they see the neighbor at the grocery store using an EBT card while they put items back on the shelf. They see the immigrant family receiving emergency housing support while they face eviction. Do these people even live in the same areas or apartments or neighborhoods or houses? They are not seeing poverty. They are seeing people getting for free the exact things that they are working 60 hours a week to barely afford. And even worse, if they don't see these things firsthand, they are being shown them. The anger isn't about the goods. It's about the breach of contract. The American deal was that effort approximated security. Effort brought your hope strike closer, but because the real poverty line is 140,000, effort no longer yields security or progress. It brings risk, exhaustion, and debt. When you're drowning and you see the lifeguard throw a life vest on the person treading water next to you, a person who isn't swimming as hard as... If you need visual proof of this benchmark error, look at the charts that economists love to share on social media to prove that vibes are wrong and the economy is great. You've likely seen this chart. It shows that the American middle class is shrinking, not because people are getting poor, but because they're moving up into $150,000 plus bracket. The economists look at this and share. Look, they say in 1967, only 5% of families made over 150K. Now 34% do. We are a nation of rising aristocrats. The percentage of U.S. households with a total income greater than 150K has increased as the middle class has been shrinking. But look at that chart through the lens of the real poverty line. If the cost of basic self-sufficiency for a family of 4 is 140K, then that top light blue tier isn't upper class, it's the survival line. This chart doesn't show the 30... Okay, I'm good. Stop! I don't know why we read this article. Fuck you, Metalwood. Okay, where are we? OTK follows, or S-Man follows the OTK tradition and says it. What?
All right. Yeah, catch a nigger coming later. Ooh, see what you guys got so far.
Oh my God, did it glitched and connected to things? Oh my God, Jesus.
Yeah, catch a nigger coming later. Ooh,
Right?
see what you guys got so far.
We've just ingredients.
Oh, sick. Yeah.
The subtitles betrayed him so hard here. It's the classic Nick R. Catchy and Nick R coming later. Oh, wait. Oh. Ooh. Never put... Oh, never mind. I see. Don't say it. Judge rules James Comey criminal case is dismissed without prejudice. Judge determined the U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan was not lawfully appointed. Uh-oh. What does that mean? Tom Brady drops an N-bomb. Wait, what's this real quick?
Excuse me. Just blasting through Nicker. Excuse me. Landon Dickerson right there. Just...
You just banned the name Nick. That just shouldn't be. That just shouldn't be. Not good.
Play made from Orgulous. It's answered by a cool play from Texas.
No.
Oh my god! Ninja? Oh my god! Ninja?
Oh no, we're getting ninja.
Absolutely disgusting.
Oh my
He just got
god!
ninja'd.
More time out of
Yeah,
shots.
he killed 3. And then the last guy.
Oh, I see.
Dude.
Oh my god.
Dude. Oh, here we go, here we go, here we go.
Ooh.
Oh!
Watch my other roof. I'm on in there.
Okay. Stop. On September 25th, 2025, Lindsay Halligan, a former White House aide with no prior prosecutorial experience, appeared before a federal grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia, having been appointed interim U.S. attorney by the Attorney General just days before. Ms. Halligan secured a 2-count indictment charging former FBI Director James B. Comey Jr. with making false statements to Congress and obstructing a congressional proceeding. Sorry. Mr. Comey now moves to dismiss the indictment on the ground that Ms. Halligan, the sole prosecutor who presented the case to the grand jury, was unlawfully appointed in violation of 28 U.S.C. 546 and the Constitution's Appointment Clause. (28 U.S.C. 546) vacancies. No subsection. Except as provided in subsection B, the Attorney General may appoint a U.S. attorney for the district in which the office of United States Attorney is vacant. So remember, a U.S. attorney is going to be working in a particular jurisdiction, and their job is to prosecute, to bring cases to a federal court, to prosecute people for doing federal crimes, right? The Attorney General, the head of the Department of Justice, the top dog prosecutor in the United States, the Attorney General shall not appoint as United States Attorney a person to whose appointment by the President to that office the Senate refused to give advice and consent. A person appointed as U.S. Attorney under this section may serve until the earlier of the qualification of a... Oh, wait, hold on. The Attorney General shall not appoint as U.S. Attorney a person whose appointment by the President to that office is... Wait, did the Senate not confirm Lindsay Halligan? Wait, what the fuck? Do they not know how it works? Wait. According to federal statute, people in that post may serve for only 120 days after being appointed U.S. attorney, unless confirmed by the Senate before then. The Senate had not confirmed Siebert, so federal judges exercise their independent appointment authority to keep him on beyond the 120. Well, has the Senate refused to give advice and consent by not having the hearing? I don't know what that language means. A person appointed as U.S. Attorney under section may serve until the earlier of the qualification of U.S. Attorney for such district appointed by the President under section or the expiration of 120 days after this appointment by the AG under this section. If an appointment expires under subsection C2, the district court for such district may appoint a U.S. Attorney to serve until the vacancy is filled. The order of appointment. Okay. Huh. And the Constitution's Appointments Clause. As explained below, I agree with Mr. Comey that the AG's attempt to install Ms. Halligan as interim U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was invalid. Because Ms. Halligan had no lawful authority to present the indictment, I will grant Mr. Comey's motion and dismiss the indictment without prejudice. The Appointments Clause prescribes the exclusive means of appointing for U.S. attorneys. Attorneys are interim officers. Or inferior officers, sorry. U.S. attorneys are for appointing attorneys when a vacancy arises. Oh, and she's quoting what we just looked up. On January 20th, 2025, Jessica Aber, who had been nominated by Biden and confirmed by the Senate, resigned from her position as U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. The following day, the AG appointed Eric Siebert as interim U.S. Attorney. His 120-day interim appointment was set to expire on May 21st, 2025, so on May 9th. The judges of the district exercised their authority under Section 546D to appoint Mr. Siebert to continue in his role, effective May 21st. On September 19th, 2025, Mr. Siebert informed colleagues of his resignation. According to news reports, Mr. Siebert had recently expressed concerns to senior DOJ officials about the viability of pursuing charges against Mr. Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Nice. Mr. Siebert's resignation came hours after President Trump told reporters at the White House that he wanted Siebert out. Ooh. Got him. He was like, fine, peace. Less than 48 hours after President Trump's post on September 22nd, 2025, the AG issued an order, Bondi, authorizing Lindsay Halligan to be the interim U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia during the vacancy in that office. The September 22nd order cites only 28 U.S.C. Section 546 that we just read as the basis for her appointment. On September 25th, 2025, a grand jury sitting in the Eastern District of Virginia returned a 2-count indictment against Mr. Comey, charging him with making false statements within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch. Ms. Halligan was the only prosecutor who participated in the government's presentation to the grand jury, and only her signature appears on Mr. Comey's indictment. The reason why for this stuff is because all of this shit is heavily political, and generally speaking, like, these are relatively prestigious positions for prosecutors to be in, as being like a federal prosecutor. These are like big boy prosecutor jobs, and regardless of what you think about them, like, these people in general try to function with a high amount of integrity. They believe strongly in the mission that they're on. They believe strongly in the work that they do. There have been a lot of resignations at the DOJ, a lot of resignations from these people who just felt like the DOJ was in a fuck direction. So them having a single prosecutor presenting these indictments to the grand jury, nobody else is signing on, nobody else is participating, some random bimbo dipshit cunt insurance lawyer, whatever. Procedural history. On October 20th, 2025, Mr. Comey moved to dismiss the indictment on the grounds that Ms. Halligan's appointment was unlawful under Section 546. October 21st, the Chief Judge of the Fourth Circuit designated me to consider this and any other motion concerning the appointment, qualification, or disqualification of the U.S. State's Attorney. Finding it necessary to determine the extent of Mr. Halligan's involvement in the grand jury proceedings, I ordered the government on October 28th to submit for in-camera review. All documents. What does in-camera mean? Like, is this in person? Or like physical copies? I forget. There's a name. This has a specific legal connotation, but I don't remember what it is. In chambers? Oh, you have to show up in like for like a hearing kind of? Or not, or you have to go to the judge's chambers and show up. It's not like a hearing, but you go to the judge's chambers and you present everything. Is that with both sides maybe? Okay. Upon reviewing the transcript provided by the government, I determined it did not include any remarks made by Ms. Halligan before and after the testimony of the sole witness. Accordingly, on November 4th, I directed the government to submit a complete transcript and or recordings of all statements made by Ms. Halligan to the grand jury. Hold on. Let me think for a second. I don't like, from a personal perspective, I don't like it when people play games with federal courts. And I feel like if you're playing stupid games, you should be getting sanctioned for it. I don't know why it feels like you can play so many stupid fucking games in federal court and they just kind of like, oh, well, let's go again. So it sounds like this judge ordered the government to submit all the documents relating to Ms. Halligan's participation in going to the grand jury and securing an indictment. And then the complete transcripts. But then when the government submitted these transcripts, it sounds like it didn't include any remarks made by Ms. Halligan before and after the testimony of the sole witness. So they're like, okay, what, you didn't even give me what I asked for. So then they did another thing. I directed a complete transcript and recording of all statements made by Ms. Halligan to the grand jury, blah, blah, blah. And a notice of compliance filed on November 5th. The government representative produced all materials requested by the October 20th and November 4th orders. On November 3rd, the government responded in opposition to Mr. Comey's motion. Also, the data government filed an order from the AG dated October 31st. The October 31st reason its entirety. To designate and appoint Lindsay Halligan as a U.S. attorney. For the avoidance of doubt as to the validity of that appointment and by virtue of the authority vested in the AG by law, including 28 U.S.C. section 509, 510, and 515, I hereby appoint Ms. Halligan to the additional position of special attorney. Okay. As of September 22nd, 2025, and thereby ratify her employment as an attorney of the Department of Justice from that day going forward. As special attorney, is that the same as like a special prosecutor? Or, wait, what? As special attorney, Ms. Halligan has authority to conduct in the Eastern District of Virginia any kind of legal proceedings, civil or criminal, including grand jury proceedings and proceedings before the United States magistrates and judges. In the alternative, should a court conclude that Ms. Halligan's authority as special attorney is limited to particular matters, I hereby delegate to Ms. Halligan authority as special attorney to conduct and supervise the prosecutions of the U.S. v. Comey and U.S. v. James case. In addition, based on my review of the grand jury proceedings in U.S. v. Comey and U.S. v. James, I hereby exercise the authority vested in the Attorney General by law to ratify Ms. Halligan's actions before the grand jury and her signature on the indictments returned by the grand jury in each case. Okay. Legal Eagle video on this case.
Lindsay
Hold on. Maybe I'll watch this after reading this. Are the changes from the DOE going to make student loans to be included in bankruptcy system? No, all the Department of Education stuff is going to basically carry on. It just was moved to other federal entities. Special attorney is just another way to say acting U.S. attorney. Is it? Okay. Comey filed his reply by November 10th. On November 13th, I heard oral arguments from the parties and took the matter under advisement. During the hearing, I raised concerns about the AG's ability to review Ms. Halligan's presentation to the grand jury when, as of October 31st, the government had not yet received the complete transcript of the proceedings. I also noted that based on my in-camera review, there appeared to be a gap in the grand jury testimony where the indictment was returned to the magistrate judge. The day after the hearing, November 14th, the government filed an unsworn declaration from Ms. Halligan and a new ratification order from the AG to declare the further states there was no additional precedent. For her part, the AG stated that she had reviewed the entirety of the record now available to the government and again ratified her actions by oral discussion. Resolving Mr. Comey's motion requires me first to decide whether Ms. Halligan was validly appointed as interim U.S. attorney under Section 546 in the Appointments Clause. If the answer to that question is yes, I need not go any further, and Mr. Comey's motion must be denied. But if the answer is no, and Ms. Halligan has no authority to present Mr. Comey's indictment to the grand jury, then the question becomes what remedy is appropriate. Should the indictment be dismissed? And if so, should the dismissal be with or without prejudice? I don't know if, so if you dismiss something with prejudice, that means that the same thing can't be brought back again. If you dismiss something without prejudice, you could bring it back again. But I don't know what it means because the statute of limitations on this thing would be passed. I don't know if you can bring back the same indictment past the statute of limitations because it was already previously filed. I'm not sure. Yeah. Under 18 U.S.C. 3288, they probably get another 6 months. Okay. Ms. Halligan's appointment violated Section 546. According to the government, this case is simple. ECF number 137 at 8, in its view, the one and only limitation on the Attorney General's authority to appoint interim U.S. attorneys under Section 546, subsequent to Section B, which bars the AG from appointing anyone whom the Senate has refused to confirm. Nothing in the text continues explicitly or implicitly precludes the AG from making multiple interim appointments during a vacancy. Thus, it concludes because the Senate has not refused advice and consent to Ms. Halligan, the AG lawfully. Mr. Comey counters that Section 546 limits the total tenure of the AG's interim appointments to 120 days and therefore precludes an additional appointment by the AG after the expiration of that 120-day period. Oh, hold on. Wait, I'm understanding, I think. So it sounds like this particular vacancy has been longer than 120 days. The Attorney General doesn't have the authority to do 120-day appointments. They have the authority to appoint somebody temporarily for that 120-day vacancy period. And then past that, the district court is the one that gets to decide who to appoint. So if they appoint somebody and they're there for 90 days and then they decide to resign, Bondi can appoint somebody else, but they're only allowed to be there for 30 days. They have a 120-day period where they can appoint somebody, and then past that, it's up to the district court to decide who they want to appoint, I think. Okay. Accordingly, he argues, Ms. Halligan's appointment was unlawful because the district court possessed the exclusive authority to appoint an interim U.S. attorney. Once Mr. Siebert's appointment by the Attorney General expired on May 21st, Mr. Comey has the better reading of the statute. The preeminent canon of statutory interpretation requires courts to presume that the legislature says in a statute what it means and means in a statute what it says there. Thus, my inquiry begins with the statutory text and ends there as well if the text is unambiguous. Yeah, okay. The interim appointments. So going back to Section 546. May appoint a United States attorney for the district in which the office of the United States attorney is vacant. They shall not appoint as U.S. attorney a person whose appointment by the president to that office the Senate refused to give advice. A person appointed as U.S. attorney under this section may serve until the earlier of the qualification of a U.S. attorney for such appointed by the president under Section 549 or the expiration of 120 days after appointment by the Attorney General under this section. I guess it's a little ambiguous maybe. But the meaning seems pretty clear. You couldn't just keep doing rolling temporary appointments. They probably didn't expect, I wonder if they anticipated in this law that your vacant fill would resign. I think a person is important destiny at the start of C. A person appointed as U.S. attorney under this section may serve until the earlier of the expiration of 120 days after appointment by the Attorney General under this section. Section 546 is unambiguous. Subsection A begins by authorizing the Attorney General to appoint a U.S. attorney for the district in which the office of U.S. attorney is vacant. C2 imposes a time limit on appointments made by the AG. It specifies that a person appointed as U.S. attorney under the statute may serve until the expiration of 120 days after appointment by the Attorney General. Subsection D then provides a single option for subsequent attorneys. Okay. The text and structure of subsection D in particular make clear the appointment power shifts to the district court after the 120-day period and does not revert to the Attorney General if a court-appointed U.S. Attorney leaves office before a Senate-confirmed U.S. Attorney is installed. The first word in subsection D, if, introduces a conditional clause that establishes the condition triggering the district court's authority. A conditional clause is an adverbial clause typically introduced by if or unless, establishing the condition in a conditional sentence. See the Chicago Manual of Style. Usually this is a direct condition indicating that the main clause is dependent on the condition being fulfilled. Okay. The indefinite article and points to a non-specific object, thing, or person that is not distinguished from other members of a class. So the expiration of any single Attorney General appointment satisfies the condition. Thus, if, as here, a court-appointed U.S. Attorney resigns, the district court retains the authority to make another interim appointment because the triggering event, the expiration of an appointment under subsection C2, has already occurred. Finally, the conjunction until... Yeah, okay. Oof, they're going to fight on that. Uh-oh. But this is true. The meaning of the law. Under the government's interpretation, the Attorney General appointees can serve indefinitely without Senate confirmation as long as the Attorney General revisits her interim appointments every 120 days. But if that were correct, the Attorney General could prevent interim appointments from ever expiring under subsection C2, which in turn would prevent the district court from ever exercising its appointment power under subsection D. Such a result would run counter to the principle that courts must avoid interpreting statutes in a way that has the practical effect of rendering a provision entirely superfluous in all but the most unusual circumstances. Okay. Damn. Well, a long-standing... CF Am Ins Assen v. Garamendi. Assen, yeah. Can you summarize for the normies? Basically, this particular prosecutorial office has been unstaffed by a Senate-confirmed prosecutor for more than 120 days, which means that Lindsay Halligan doesn't really have the authority to bring cases here. It needs to be right now the district court has the ability to choose who to fill that role with until the executive branch picks a prosecutor for the legislative branch, for the Senate to confirm, basically. In simpler terms, Trans-Tifa, fucking up the courts. I don't get why Trump didn't just get Lindsay Halligan Senate confirmed. It's not like the Senate wouldn't vote to confirm her, right? Well, the issue is what I said before, is that this government doesn't know how to be a government. Trump does not know how the government works. And the people around him also don't really seem to understand how the government works. Like, unironically, I don't mean that in like they don't believe in my interpretation of the United States, but they just seem to all have very poor understandings of, what's going on. One of the things I said before that, like people don't like to think of like, oh, the bureaucracy is bad. The bureaucracy is bad. You need people who know how to do shit so that you can get shit done. Yeah. It's also unknown whether or not this particular person would have been confirmed because of another Senate thing. People keep bringing up this blue slip rule that basically says that a senator has the right to choose whether or not they want to confirm or not confirm a particular prosecutor that's going to be functioning in their district. It's just like a polite rule in the Senate. And I think generally that's respected. And they wanted to get rid of that blue slip rule to bring in Halligan because the senator from the state didn't want her there, but the Senate didn't agree to do that because if you get rid of the blue slip rule, then then the senators will be like, well, fuck you, yeah. Yeah, but this is what happens when you get DEI for white nationalists or fucking retards. You don't actually have people that can run the government or know what they're doing, and you just like end up with a bunch of fucking morons that don't know what the fuck is going on. Trump didn't appoint anybody due to their qualifications. He did it, or like merit-based. He just did it because they were dick sucks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, I imagine they're definitely going to appeal this, right? But I don't know on what grounds they would win on, unless you get a different interpretation of this statute, which is fucking retarded. But I guess, yeah, we'll see what they do next. Wait, not this. Let's see. Watch a little bit of this on this.
Halligan is an insurance lawyer with no experience as a prosecutor. Donald Trump handpicked her to lead his political revenge tour in the justice system. And it just imploded. I know because I was in the room where it happened. Turns out former FBI Director James Comey may have never actually been indicted. This was such a shocking revelation that I felt cosmically compelled to memorialize the hearing in a courtroom sketch. Yeah, that's real, I did that. I mean, who needs cameras in the courtroom when you've got that? But this bombshell is not the only problem the prosecution is facing. In just a few weeks, Halligan managed to rack up more catastrophic legal oopsies than most prosecutors see in an entire career. She discussed sensitive case information with a legal journalist. A magistrate judge accused her office of, quote, indict first, investigate later. There's a looming ruling that could toss the case for vindictive prosecution. And now there's the mind-melting possibility that the final indictment against former FBI Director James Comey was never actually voted on by the grand jury, potentially invalid.
Oh, wait. Was this video recorded before it was tossed? Oh, so this was before it was even ruled.
Dating it. Halligan's case against Trump's #1 political target didn't just go off the rails. It went into the ravine and exploded in the flames of incompetence. So let's break down Lindsay Halligan's no good.
Right. Well, we'll see if they try to appeal this, I guess. Uh-oh. Wait, what? Hold on. Mike Johnson will be stripped of his gavel. Republicans brace for impact as party insider says wave of resignations is imminent, breaking the majority. The Daily Boulder. Do we trust this? Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's sudden retirement announcement didn't just rattle. Hold on. Okay. The halls of Congress, it detonated a political warning flare over a Republican majority that already feels like it's held together with tape and denial. Her manifesto, sharp-edged and dripping with frustration, didn't simply call out House leadership. It exposed how unstable the GOP conference has become, and insiders say her exit is already inspiring others who are ready to bolt. Republicans are clinging to a 219-213 majority. I'm sorry, real quick. Does the majority even fucking matter? Like, I feel like this government administration just doesn't even want to do anything with fucking Congress. It feels like they don't do anything. Like, it feels like Congress is like here to jerk each other off. What the fuck is even? Our government does nothing. Or the Congress, because this president doesn't want to do anything legislatively. He's just a fucking loser. He literally doesn't give a fuck about anything. Republicans are clinging to a 219-213 majority, and Punchbowl News reports that upcoming special elections in Tennessee, Texas, and New Jersey could make that margin even thinner. In a moment where every vote is life or death for Speaker Mike Johnson, Greene's critique landed with brutal timing. Punchbowl broke it down clearly. The crux of MTG's message is that Trump and House Republicans are abandoning all of the president's priorities, falling into complacency, and are on the brink of squandering their razor-thin majority. And the outlet didn't pretend this was a typical intra-party squabble. Let's dispense with the caveats. MTG has never been representative of the House Republican Conference writ large. She clearly has a bone to pick with Trump in the leadership. MTG may even have her eye on the governorship. That chatter picked up again over the weekend. She was also never a fan of Speaker Mike Johnson. But what's worrying GOP leaders is that Greene's anger isn't isolated anymore. It's echoing inside the conference. One senior House Republican described the mood in brutal terms. This entire White House team has treated all members like garbage. All. And Mike Johnson has let it happen because he wanted it to happen. That is the sentiment of nearly all appropriators, authorizers, hawks, doves, rank and file. There is something that is just so true is one thing that I hope people are gaining more appreciation for is friction in our government isn't always bad. Sometimes it's good to have some friction. You don't want every single part of your government to be subservient to other parts of the government, because then you get like these fucking losers, these subhuman fucks like Mike Johnson. You're people like your Mitch McConnells, who for all, trust me, I fucking disagree with every fucking conservative bone in McConnell's body. Mitch McConnell was a politician first, and he was a senator first. Now, insofar as his agenda would align with Trump, he'd go with it. But when Trump and him fell out of step, McConnell stood on business for shit that he believed in. And he would not go down like the craziest roads that Trump wanted to go down. Which, for better or for worse, is like keeps things functioning somewhat. But when you get these people like Mike Johnson and Trump is like, hey, we're not going to do anything in the legislature anymore because we don't give a fuck. Also, we're going to like daily rape you guys because it's just fucking lols. And also, my whole cabinet is filled with fucking retards. Lol. And you get all these people everywhere. They're just like, they can't do anything. They're ineffective. They have no backbone. They're spineless. They're losers. They're cucks to themselves. They're literally self-cuckolds. They don't even watch other people fucking their SOs. They get a mirror and they watch themselves getting fucked by the administration. It's deplorable behavior. The arrogance of this White House team is off-putting to members who are run roughshod and threatened. They don't even allow little wins like announcing small grants or even responding from agencies. Not even the high profile, the regular rank and file random members, not even the high profile, the regular rank and file random members are more upset than ever. Members know they are going into the minority after the midterms. Then came the line currently haunting GOP leadership. More explosive early resignations are coming. It's a tinderbox. Morale has never been lower. Mike Johnson will be stripped of his gavel, and they will lose the majority before this term is out. That's not just frustration, that's a prognosis. The special election in Tennessee on December 2nd to fill former Representative Mark Green's seat has become a money-soaked battlefield. People that accuse every single thing we're reading and every single thing we're doing is AI, please, I'm going to start banning you. Stop. It's so fucking annoying. Please, just assume everything is AI. Just don't say anything anymore, okay? It is the most brain-dead fucking assertion. Destiny, do you feel like this article was written with an AI? There's an M dash. Their journalists use M dashes all the time. Just kill yourself. Stop. Jesus Christ, it's so fucking annoying. Please stop. Oh my God. You might be an AI just to trigger me. Democrats are also poised to pick up a Houston seat in January after the death of Representative Sylvester Turner, and New Jersey voters will fill Governor-elect Mickey Sherrill's seat on April 16th in a district Kamala Harris won by 9 points. Don't. Stop! Zoom. Stop. Exit. Punchbowl laid out the nightmare scenario in plain math. Let's say Democrats are able to steal the Tennessee seat based on subpar GOP turnout. Unlikely, but possible. Johnson would have 218 members to Democrats' 214. Texas and New Jersey would bring Democrats to 216. If any members retire or fall ill, Johnson would be sunk. That's why even a handful of early exits could send the GOP majority crashing down. This is just for special elections too, right? This isn't even midterms. It's just special elections. That's why even a handful of early exits could send crash down. Punchbowl added a final dose of reality. House retirements and resignations are common after holidays. How appealing is it to return to the Capitol when the House spends most of its time voting on censure resolutions or meaningless messaging bills? In other words, morale is cratering. Green's exit may be just the first domino, and Republicans know it. Their majority doesn't just look fragile, it looks ready to collapse at the slightest nudge. And according to their own insider, that nudge is already coming. Heh.
You used a method.
This is last month. We're in November, right? October 21st.
You used a method that I wish you could use on U.S. attorneys. You know, I have 10 U.S. attorneys who are phenomenal, a Harvard, a Yale, a this, a that, all top. And the problem is they're not going to ever be confirmed, I guess. I put them in. They'll be there for 3 or 4 months, whatever it's about, and then they have to leave. Because anytime you have, as you know, anytime you have a Democrat senator, not even 2, just 1, they'll say because of the time we're in, we're not approving that person. We're not approving. They never do. They won't approve. And therefore, because of blue slip, I have to tell the person after 3 months, I'm sorry, you'll have to leave. And I put somebody else in. And I've had Democrat senators say the only one who will ever approve is a Democrat. This is not constitutional. And you really...
What open partisanship hackery? Why, it's a prosecutor. They serve long terms. It's not... I don't even know if you call it a term. I don't know if prosecutors retire out. Like, they have to just quit, right? Or why would you say lifetime appointment? I don't know. But like they're there for a long fucking time. The idea that you need a Republican prosecutor, the fuck is wrong with you? What a weirdly stupid fucking thing to say.
I hope you can look at that blue slip thing, because I have 10 people that are phenomenal, and they're going to have to leave office. Highly educated, top of their class, everything. And they're going to have a mark on their career that they were a U.S. attorney for 3 months or 4 months, and then they had to leave. And that's so unfair. It's unfair to the public, because the public voted for me in a landslide, and I'm supposed to be picking the U.S. attorneys. And this goes for judges also. But
with the advice and consent of the Senate, you buffoon fuck, you fucking idiot who doesn't even know the basic jobs of the role of the fucking government. Send your DOJ or send a representative, or go yourself and talk to the senators and work on something and figure out who you want to appoint. Don't just throw random people at them and say, oh, appoint them. That's him eating his own shit.
Actually, more so even for the U.S. attorney with a blue slip. So I have these phenomenal people, many of them young, but truly fantastic people, and they're wondering what's going to happen in another 3, 4, 5 weeks.
That's your failure.
Have to leave office. I think it's a shame, and I hope you can do something about it, because I'd like to tell those people, we put you there, and you're not going to have on your resume for the rest of your life, you were there for 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and you left like you got canned. So I hope you look at that. Very important. Did he use...
Fucking loser. Hold on, let's see if I open anything else about this. The day when Mr. Comey was indicted was a sad day for our government. Honest prosecutors were fired to clear the path for an unlawful prosecution, but today an independent judiciary vindicated our system of laws, not just for Mr. Comey, but for all American citizens. Full statement by Comey's attorney. Oh, relating to the dismissal. I imagine you can appeal a granting of a motion to dismiss, right?
When it comes to that issue.
Right. Do we foresee at all then an appeal or a different than prosecution, a second bite of the apple then with procedural things intact?
I would just, yes, it's a 29-page opinion. I was just reading.
There's a lot of background noise here, right? Fans or AC or something, and they have the compressor set high. Every time they start talking, this unacceptable environment for recording.
At all then an appeal or a different than prosecution, a second bite of the apple then with procedural things intact?
I would just, yes, it's a 29-page opinion. I was just reading through it. So sorry if I looked distracted during our segment. It doesn't get to the claim of malicious prosecution that Jim Comey was making. So this is solely the appointments clause, and that's why you have both cases dismissed against both individuals.
Right.
And it is kind of interesting, though, because obviously that's kind of a fluke side ruling, not on the merits of the case. But it is kind of interesting how all of these fluke side rulings always tend to seem to go in the same direction.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I wish I knew more about law stuff when I was arguing some of the J6 stuff in the past. To say that it's decided on standing and not on merits, fuck you. Standing is part of the process, and the procedure is part of it goes towards establishing the merits. You have no merits and you have no substance without your standing. Right? If a cop goes into a house and rapes the family members until they finally confess to the crimes, and then they go to a judge and they're like, hey, we're ready to bring this case or whatever. And well, we feel like you didn't get the evidence in a proper way. And it's like, oh, wow. So we don't even get to know the substance to see if these confessions that they gave while they were screaming, while they were being fucking anally penetrated, we don't even get to evaluate the merits of the case. Seriously? Really? Okay. Like, it's such a brain dead babby fucking take. And they know it too, because I bet all these motherfuckers are like Harvard cum laude, top of their class bullshit, putting on this stupid fucking act for Fox News. But like, if you're failing on standing, you are failing on the most retarded part. You have demonstrated. It's like a guy claiming, like, I've got the best fucking race car driver in the world. He's going to drive your car on this thing where you guys are racing for pink, so it's going to be awesome. And the guy's like 3 feet tall. It's like, what the fuck do you mean? How is he going to drive my car? I can't even see over the dashboard. And it's like, no, bro, trust me. And it's like, no, this guy's not driving. You can't even clear the basic thing of being able to drive the car. How are you going to I don't care if he drives well, he can't drive. Like, if you can't clear your basics to even establish your lawsuit, well, then fuck you. Then whatever merits you have to talk about, you don't even deserve to talk about them. And they're probably bullshit. This is the easiest part of a court case to clear, is having a validly appointed prosecutor is your baseline. It's your lowest baseline shit to clear. It's not on the merits.
Prosecution a second bite of the apple then with procedural things intact.
Yes, it's a 29-page opinion.
Sorry. When it comes to that issue.
Right. Do we foresee at all then an appeal or a different then prosecution a second bite of the apple then with procedural things intact?
Yes, it's a 29-page opinion. I was just reading through it. So sorry if I look distracted during our segment. It doesn't get to the claim of malicious prosecution that Jim Comey was making. So this is solely the appointments clause, and that's why you have both cases dismissed against both.
Also, I don't know if she's implying here that they ignored this or something, but when you're arguing things as a lawyer, you're running through every single potential argument. You don't just make one and then I hope I win here. And just because you're making multiple arguments doesn't mean you're bouncing between arguments. You lay out here's my 5 arguments. Why should this be dismissed? Well, it should be dismissed because it doesn't even meet this threshold, whatever, but it doesn't even do this. And even if it did meet that, then you make your next argument. It should be dismissed because of this. And then if it doesn't meet that, and then if not, then it's for this. You make all of your arguments when you're filing your motions, when you're doing your things. You don't just make one and then it's oh, well, if he made 2, he must not believe in one or the other. No, you fucking retard. That's not how this works. So I don't know anything about the malicious prosecution claim. I don't even know if that was a real claim they were making. But if the motion to dismiss is succeeding based on this appointments clause argument, then the judge might not even evaluate the second argument because he doesn't even need to. This is enough to satisfy a motion to dismiss, and that's it. It's dismissed. Why would the judge even waste their time going through? They have nothing else to do with their day?
Dismissed against both individuals.
Right.
And it is kind of interesting, though, because obviously that's kind of a fluke side ruling, not on the merits of the case. But it is kind of interesting how all of these fluke side rulings always tend to seem to go in the same direction.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? It's interesting that it seems like all the procedural fails are ruled against on one side. Imagine being so close to getting the point, but so much of your brain, what is it called? Semen encephalitis, when half your brain is replaced by fucking cum juice from this current administration because you're getting fucked in the ear so much, you can't form a coherent thought of your own. Okay. A few other GOP members messaged us over the weekend saying they too are considering retiring in the middle of the term. Here's one particularly excised senior House Republican. Senior House Republican. Does this imply this is a congressman, right? This isn't just a senior staff or something, right? It's a congressman, right? Yeah, okay. Oh, this is founder of Punchbowl News, so the same reporting, but yeah, this is the same quote that showed up in there.